I grew up in Shakopee, Minnesota, pretty much a smaller suburb of Minneapolis area, pretty rural, pretty farm oriented, and it's not really the most ideal place for a, I guess, aspiring motorcyclist to grow up. So just recently moved to Southern California, which as far as a place of living, it's whatever, but a place of riding, pretty much a fan, pretty pumped on it for sure. As far as childhood go, I mean, I led a pretty average one with school and sports and t-ball and softball and basketball, baseball, football, track and field, cross country. You know, mainly I was always into sports and stuff like that. And I had motorcycles a little bit when I was younger. I had one when I was 2. My dad, thought it'd be an awesome idea to get me one for my 2nd birthday, and it probably was the best idea ever. But at that time, I didn't really think of motorcycling to be kind of what I wanted to do. I was always into sports and do whatever. So I kind of had it for a little while, and then we ended up selling it. And then I got more into motocross and more into dirt bikes a little bit later on because I was watching Supercross on TV and went to Supercross and things like that. And I was like, oh man, dirt bikes, motorcycles, sick. So we made a deal with my parents that if I got on all A honor roll for 4th and 5th grade, I believe it was 4th and 5th or 5th and 6th, and they would buy me Kawasaki KX85. So I got on all A honor roll, and in 2003, my parents bought me a KX85, and I started ripping dirt bike now and then, and my dad at the same time was just starting up a motorcycle shop, and he was kind of buying and selling bikes and doing things like that, so I was going out after school and stuff and riding here and then, not a super ton, but I was really liking it, and I was kind of just learning how to ride dirt bikes again with a clutch, things like that. And yeah, from that point on, it basically turned into like a widespread disease that just kept going because all I wanted to do was ride. My dad was getting more into riding, and then basically that's when my normal childhood ended. Started getting into the street bikes and stuff, and still was doing some of the school, but it didn't quite turn out like that. Basically everything took over. I quit all sports, only was doing motorsports and watching videos and on the internet doing anything I could to get more riding and anything, motorcycles, dirt bikes, street bikes, anything. So pretty much from that point on, it kind of leads me to the long story of what I've been doing competing and what I've been doing as far as freestyle, because that's kind of like a new chapter in my life from that point on. There's a few key people that have a really big part in kind of teaching me a lot of different things. One of which is my dad. He taught me a lot of the stuff. My dad and his buddy Ryan taught me a lot of things about on the mini bike, as far as you need to use the rear brake for this and this, that, and the other. And then at the point when I was just about to get on the full-size bike, my dad was getting really good. He's one of the better riders in the area, so he taught me a lot of things. And then after I surpassed that, it was about the same time I was going back and forth to Florida. And one of my best friends now, who also travels with me, Chris Tice, had a really big part as far as me competing and teaching me a lot of different things about riding, or linking me up with people that could really help. And yeah, and then kind of after that point, it becomes a certain level when you start getting on a higher competitive level. You kind of have to teach yourself, teach yourself, from scratch. And being in Minnesota, I didn't really have the most friendly environment to feed off riders, but I did a lot of that online and watching videos and things like that, and kind of going here and there. And then it's one of those things, like you can come up with some new stuff, or you can be way behind and you show up to a competition and your mind's blown. People are doing stuff all across the board. Like I remember I would show up to my first competitions, and Darius, from the guy I've been watching, the first videos I'd ever bought, freestyle, would just be murdering combos that no one could even touch, just on top of his game. And then you'd see those, like, how is he doing that? But then in the next competition, you'd be doing the same things as he was, and he's a step ahead. So it's always kind of those things, like competition-wise, like, so there's always a weird feeding thing, not living in a good area. So now that where I am, I'm kind of at a different point in my career when a lot of what I have to teach is the only thing I can teach myself. Yeah, it's kind of all that stuff went with the learning curve. Now I'm at least in an area where I can go out and ride with people in California and stuff like that. It's a pretty popping spot here for riding, but now it's also at the point where you got to be innovative. You can't just keep taking other people's stuff. I could say that I decided this was going to be my career when I was 13, but honestly I didn't. When I was 13 years old, this is what I wanted to be a career. And when I was 14, I started getting a lot of success. And I didn't really decide that this was going to be my career until I was like 15 years old. Because when I was 15, I finally started figuring out that you can actually make money doing this. It's definitely no... people ask me all the time, how much do you make? It's like, if you found out the amount that I spend, it wouldn't even matter. It's not a cheap sport to be in at all. It's not, when you're putting on 60 to 80,000 miles a year and going cross country all the time and late hours, late nights. People don't appreciate, what it is. And that was one thing that was like the deterrent. Basically, the deterrent to me wanting to be my career when I first started was all that. But the positive was, I get to go all around the country and or world and do what I like to do for fun, and I get paid for it. So when I started figuring out that a lot of that stuff came, that was possible, I was like, man, I want to do this for a living. Like, if I can do this for a living, I'm going to. And then a few years later, here I am. There's definitely been a lot of ups and a lot of downs throughout the years. Financially alone, but injuries and bad trips and things like that, and just general sport morale, as far as some people disliking the competition series and liking the competition series, and judging changes and this and that, and there's just all just like every sport has, it just never really gets aired out. So, but about, I'd say 15, 16 years old is when I decided that this is what I wanted to do for a living. All right, injuries suck. I'm so over them. For as long as I've been riding, I feel super lucky as far as injuries go. I can't say I've never been injured, because I've had some injuries, or at least one that took me out for like 6 months, So, but there's been a few, I've had a few broken hand bones and ribs. I'm not going to say I don't wake up sore kind of daily, there's always things that ache a little bit. But yeah, the only one of really epic proportions, the one that took me out for a long time, was when I broke my leg. And a lot of kids break their legs, old people break their legs. Well, I ended up having a pretty severe break that, was one of those things like hospital now and decisions now. Basically, just broke tib, fib, and destroyed everything on my right ankle. Just everything was just destroyed. And that one is really kind of one of those, when we talk about uppers and downers of the career, that one was one of those downers, because all of a sudden, as soon as, you never really think of, like, let's say if I got in a crash and, broke my arm, like, I can think about it right now and be like, okay, this is what I would do, but until it happens, you don't know. Well, I didn't think that my first major bone break was going to be one that was, like, major, so basically I called a good friend of mine, Jason Pridmore, after it happened, and I said, I was in the back of this van getting transported to the hospital. I said, hey, Jason, dude, I really messed up. I'm in a lot of pain. I really need to, what's that surgeon you go to? There's this guy's name is Dr. Arthur Ting, who, there's Ting and Tuan. They both work out of Fremont, California, and they do riders across the world. They do MotoGP guys, Barry Bonds, Adrian Peterson, all across the world. And they're a small clinic in Fremont, California. They only do surgeries on Mondays, unless it's, like a pre-existing client with an emergency need. And it happened on a Sunday, and at this time I was not 18 yet, and I called Jason. I'm like, hey, Jason, I really need you to do me a favor. Can you please put me in contact with this surgeon? And I'm pretty sure it was more urgent than that, because at the time I was pretty loopy, pretty in shock, but he called my dad, and we ended up catching 2 one-way, like, I think we spent like $1,000 a piece on a one-way ticket just to get to California. Flew out there, got me in the surgery center, and I pretty much hold, Ting and Tuan responsible for I would say saving my career. My ankle, I probably would still be walking and stuff right now if I had done it in St. Cloud or done it in Minnesota, wherever I was, but I consider myself right now 100% physical. Running, jumping, swimming, bicycling, riding, motocross, freestyle, totally fine. So I definitely have a big thanks to those guys right there. And those are one of those things that you just think about it, it's like, you get to think about a lot of stuff when you're sitting in the couch for 6 months. And it wasn't really 6 months straight. It was like 3 months, and then I went in for another surgery, had the plates removed, and another 3 months. So I had a little bit of time in between, but it was still one of those things like, man, do I want to keep doing this? And I was like, yeah, shit, yeah. It's totally worth it. Like, I'll get hurt every once in a while to keep me going on this path forever. It's not too big of a deal. But yeah, injuries definitely are not awesome. I had a couple concussions here and there, but that's standard motorsport stuff, so no big deal. Oh, the riding part's easy. Anyone can be a pro motorcycle rider. I'm being dead honest right now. Like, it's, obviously there's talent that sets above the rest. Determination's a lot, but talent sets above too. But to be honest, the easiest thing I do is ride the motorcycle. People will not believe it. Like, oh yeah, well, it's so hard doing it. And like, no, dude, riding's easy. Riding's fun. It's like, okay, I can either wake up in the morning, go to the gym, or ride my bicycle, answer a whole bunch of emails, go work on the bike, shower, and go to bed. or I can go ride. You know what I mean? The riding part's the easy part. All the other stuff is hard, and all the other stuff is what actually keeps you going. Because if there's a lot of guys out there that are amazing riders, and I'll even say some are better than me, but have no support at all. Because there's more than just one part. There's more than just a riding aspect to what we do. Just like every sport, just like every major athlete, there's a much more than just the riding aspect.